Hey everyone, so today I want to go over two of my favorite characters, Diluc and Ayaka, and do a comparison of the two and go over some of their pros and cons and which one you should be running. Let's go. So first up, let's go over the differences between the two characters and some situations which you would want to run one over the other. So first up we have Ayaka, who is a cryo sword user, which means firstly she's going to have a huge advantage over Diluc when it comes to those pyro based enemies, as she'll be able to mount any pyro shield as well as dealing with the pyro domain much better, which could be useful if you are needing a good party to farm the domain with. How does the way Ayaka play differ from Diluc? Well, firstly there's the reaction she's going for, which is going to be freeze, as it is by far the best reaction for her, as it allows for a relatively safe game plan, as the enemies won't be able to move and so you won't be taking any damage. Now there's a second reaction that you could go for. It's a mount build that isn't that recommended, as there isn't anyone who can apply pyro fast enough for Ayaka, as she applies cryo extremely fast, so it's much more recommended to run a perma freeze comp. So with a perma freeze comp, it is highly advised to run Shinshu due to his hydro application skills that will allow Ayaka to freeze everyone and then deal huge damage with her attacks and bursts. So how does this compare to Diluc? Well, with Diluc, the main thing you're going to be focusing on is reactions, more specifically vaporized reactions, as that is by far the best reaction, as while melt is good, due to vaporize being able to proc multiple times, it outperforms melt by a bit. So like Ayaka, Shinshu is often paired with Diluc and makes it so easy to proc the vaporized reaction. Another thing to note is their effectiveness when dealing with multiple mobs. So Diluc is mainly single targeted with his skill, while capable of hitting multiple mobs. It's more designed for one-on-one engagement, although his burst is definitely capable of huge AoE damage. The only thing you do have to be careful about is the positioning and making sure it will hit all the enemies. With Ayaka, her skill will be an AoE circle around her that will deal cryo damage, which is great at quickly freezing enemies in her vicinity. Her burst, again, is an AoE cryo attack that can be also somewhat difficult to aim, but if you pair with someone like Venti, who will be able to group the enemies together, you can potentially clear a domain within seconds with this duo. And while it is a great AoE attack, it can also be a very effective single target attack due to its high damage multipliers and its multitude of hits it will deal, and you can see many videos on YouTube of it absolutely shredding some of the bosses in Genshin. When it comes to their parties, what kind of parties can they fit into? Well, they're relatively similar, as they both are probably going to be running a Shinshu as their sub DPS, and with Diluc, Bennett is often run. With Ayaka, you could also run him, but Diona is the preferred one. That leaves the fourth slot, which is often the flex slot. With Ayaka, someone like Venti, for the aforementioned reasons, is a very good choice, or even someone like Zhongli when facing some of the more difficult enemies. But overall, they both are somewhat flexible in terms of the team comp they can fit into. Now, speaking of teams, let's briefly talk about the elemental resonances the parties can go for. So with Diluc, a pyro resonance is very good, as it provides them with a bunch more attack, whereas with Ayaka, a cryo resonance is often a nice addition. As with this, as well as the Blizzard Straya artifacts, she will be almost critting every single hit, which will help with her damage so much, as the only thing you need to focus on is crit damage. And speaking of crit damage, her ascension stat is crit damage, which is extremely good on her. Diluc instead has crit rate for his stat, which again is amazing, as he won't be able to benefit from the increase in crit rate the cryo artifact set and the cryo resonances provide, so increasing his crit rate anytime you can is really good. So with Ayaka, her best in slot weapon will be the Mist Splitter Reforged, which offers a great passive and crit damage. However, it does not feature in the standard banner, so if you missed out on it, you won't be able to obtain it, as well as Ayaka in general. Whereas both Diluc and his best in slot weapon, the Wolf's Gravestone, are featured in the standard banner, which is important to note. Finally, their constellations. While they are great, they definitely aren't needed, and they aren't so-called constellation locked where the character feels that they can't be played without them. They both definitely are capable at C0, which is great, as at least for Diluc, he has never been in the featured banner, and Ayaka was somewhat recently released, and so won't be featured quite some time. And so now we come to the question, Diluc versus Ayaka, who is better? Well, in terms of just pure DPS, Ayaka will definitely come out on top just due to her insane bursters, especially when dealing with multiple enemies, as well as it being very easy to achieve extremely high crit rate with her due to her being a cryo character, as well as a character that will have a very safe playstyle due to perma-freezing enemies, compared to the more in-your-face style that Diluc will be doing. There are some positives for Diluc, is that Ayaka, as well as her best in slot weapon, is unobtainable as of making this video, whereas Diluc is obtainable, albeit very difficult as he is not on a featured banner. But again, as I've mentioned before, play the one you want to, as all of the content in the game can easily be cleared by either one, so don't feel that you always have to use the best character available, as personally I use Diluc much more than I use Ayaka, even though my Ayaka probably out DPSs him at this point. But yeah, anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.